Namaste and welcome to another new webinar series of AIDIA entitled COVID-19 Implications in Nepal-India Trade, Transit and Economy. The COVID-19 pandemic has presented an unprecedented challenges to global economy and international trade. I think we need a coordinated global, regional and bilateral response is like utterly essential to respond it adequately. We know that Nepal-India shares very important economic linkage. Nepal's largest trading partner is India, and in addition to that, India is also the major transit country for Nepal's international trade. Correspondingly, looking at the cross-border migration, which is also a very significant part of our bilateral economic engagement. So broadly, to discuss on the questions that how should our policy response during this corona outbreak, and priorities in post-pandemic scenario. We have invited some important person related to the trade infrastructure development and management, and also the observers in Nepal-India trade and economy. So let me introduce our speaker in alphabetical order. From Nepal, we have Kuber Chalise sir, who is the editor at Karobar National Economic Daily. Similarly with us, Pratim Ranjan Bose sir, Deputy Editor and Chief of Bureau of the Hindu Business Line India. Similarly with us, Rajan Sharma sir, former President of Nepal's Freight Forwarders Associations. Similarly with us, Rajesh Khanal sir, who is a Senior Sub-Editor at Republica Nepal, Delhi. Similarly, Sagar Khastagir sir, who is the Assistant General Manager of Summit Airlines Port, East Gateway International Private Limited. Similarly, joining with us, Shubhangi ma'am, who is Associate Editor at TR5 Post India. And with us, Vishnu Kumar Chaudhary sir, who is a CEO at Himalayan Terminal Private Limited. So we have divided this discussion under three thematic areas to better understand the issue, which are in first part, like we'll try to understand how we can ensure the bilateral trade flows during this outbreak. And in second part, we'll discuss about how we can protect cross-border labor migrant. And similarly, in our last part, we'll discuss about the post-COVID-19 Nepal-India economic engagements, what are the challenges and opportunities that we have. And finally, we'll take some questions, if any. Hopefully, our attendees will like put forward some questions to our panelists. While talking about the ensuring bilateral trade flows during COVID-19 pandemic, I think like WTO forecast estimates world trade to shrink by almost like 14 to 42 or 43% in 2020. But maintaining trade flows during this pandemic is vital for livelihood and also will be key for minimizing the economic impact. So what is the current status of bilateral trade flows between Nepal and India? And are there any obstacles and issues to ensure the flow and transit of essential goods? Or like, are there any temporary measures have been adopted in response to the COVID-19 pandemic or need for adaptations? Or like broadly, how can both countries work together and plan appropriately for trade facilitations at this emergency time with the proactive trade measures? For instance, like expediting movements and clearance of goods, tariff reductions, among others. So to give us the sense about these issues, first, I'd like to request Rajan sir for your remarks.
Thank you very much, Shyam KCG. And then I would like to say namaste to all the eminent, speakers in this panel. My perspective, being a private sector and at that very logistics, service provider, I'll focus mostly on the issues that I feel I have been experiencing during this pandemic. On the issues that are coming up. So, and then I would also like to give you. See, when we look into trade or when we look into any issues during the pandemic, it is not an issue of one nation. because when we talk about supply chain management, it is end to end. Somebody purchases something from Nepal, and then if it is coming from China or from US or from any European country, the responsibility of all the actors along the supply chain is to be able to cater to the need of the ultimate customer. And then that's how we are only been able to give us our customers satisfaction. So what I'm seeing during this pandemic in the supply chain is that, the one thing is, then what I would like to also say is that, when we look into the supply chain for a landlocked country like Nepal, we have to look into by different sectors, The supply chain within the country. I would like to begin with the supply chain within the country, where we are seeing the negligency or the lack of knowledge between the government and the private sectors or the business support organizations of the private sectors on having the right people represent on the right way of giving instructions or giving managing the epidemic in the logistics side. So the coordination is missing. For example, I tell you, my Vishnuji in the dry port has been operating day and night, and then he has the constant and difficulties of releasing the containers. It has been blocked. At one time there was 3,500 containers already there in a container yard station, which could accommodate only about 1,500 containers. And then the couriers are not operating. So if courier is not operating, a rubber stamp or a document cannot go to beer guns to clear the goods there. The clearing agents' movements are difficult. The custom officers are reluctant to work. So there are so many issues. Now, not to talk about, banking institutes and the documents that are needed for trade and for other things. Now, if you talk about beyond the border, the situation is also similar. The couriers are not operating. The documents have to reach to Calcutta. There are some, provisions made on a piecemeal basis, but because, even if this document doesn't reach, if the information doesn't flow in the proper channel, the custom clearance is difficult because there are certain risk factors between the two countries having the bilateral trade relationships, and there are other norms which needs to be followed. The issues in the destination countries of export or import for the origin countries is even more serious because in those the pandemic is very much high and the correspondence and the operations and the deliveries and at the destinations are very, very difficult. So looking into this, it is not about one country performing better or one logistics service provider in the logistics supply chain or the actor and his activities being performed in a very good manner. So what we need a very, very coordinated manner means approach towards solving the supply chain issues. Unless we solve this, it is really very, very difficult. So when we talk about the actors, you can imagine there are a lot of actors. The port alone has 74 different actors operating within the port premises to make things happen. And in export and import, there are nearly about 34 different agencies that are involved for making things happen. So this coordination has not been taken up very seriously. We are only talking about essentials, but essentials also need documents. Essential also needs logistics. Essential also needs payment systems and things like that to make things happen. So we have not been able to manage the flow of goods properly because we have not been able to manage the flow of information, the flow of money, and the flow of documents in a very appropriate manner, which could be easily done if it was planned very well. This is one within the country. Now, beyond border, it is much more difficult, and everybody will agree to that. And it is the same issue that way. So I look into the 5 main focuses that needs to be taken into consideration. That is information visibility, the coordination approach among logistics service providers, the professionalism of the logistics service providers themselves as well. How you manage people. It is not about quality management now. It is about quality people now. How you manage people. If you manage people, they can move mountains. If you talk about quality management, TQM, it might not mean anything at this pandemic time because my clearing agents works day and night. They're taking all sorts of risks, but the precaution and the empathy that you need to put towards him is also missing in the managemental side. In the higher level, everybody wants the job to be done, but nobody empathizes with the people that are working in the ground. Everybody is empathizing with people working in the health sector or in the security sector, but the real people who are making things happen, that is the logistics sector, is being missed out beyond border within the border. And then the other thing is about accountability and the distribution channels that we need to work out. So based on this, I have got a few tips. That is the synergy that we are missing. We need to now have a better synergy among, actors beyond the border as well as within the border and the worldwide. The network needs to be much more stronger with a better understanding. The end-to-end purchase system needs to be taken into consideration, and the responsibility will have to be taken by the logistics service provider, be it the terminal operator, shipping companies, airlines, or freight forwarders, or custom brokers, or truck drivers, or anybody operating in between. So the coordination among the actors, again, I emphasize here. The inventory management system of each countries and each factories and each suppliers needs to be worked out also in a better better way. There are a lot of risks that might happen. There are illegal trades that are happening, and we are crossing borders. So, there needs to be a very good, mechanism of how risk can be managed. And the overall, the governments of each country needs to activate their institutions which are related to the logistics services. Because, Nepal has got a transit and warehousing company in India and the Consulate General's office. Now, their role needs to be much more active in making things happen. Just automating things and then giving some sort of information and then coordinating with will not do. They have to come into the actual action to make things happen. For example, the transit and warehousing company should be able to move trucks, should be able to, coordinate custom clearance, should be able to, handle documents, take guarantee to Indian government that, this government, the things are good. If there is some inspection that are needed by Indian authorities for illegal trade or suspicion or anything like that, they must be given that power in such situations so that, the things move faster. They are issues that, for more than 1.5 months, export containers are lying down in different CFS in Calcutta. So imports are also moving, but by rail, but by road. There are still some basic problems because of documents and other issues. So these are basic things. And now to again add, there are mechanisms that have been set by BBIN, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, and India, coordination there with BIMSTEC and with SAC as well. And I don't know where they are at this epidemic, and at this pandemic situation. What type of coordinations are they talking about? Why are they not working into? Why this coordination is missing? So seeing it from a logistics supplier's point of view, I see a very, very blim picture in future as well if we are not able to manage all these situations in a very coordinated manner. And, trades will have to happen because, disease is there, and trades will have to happen because we have to live our lives, and the livelihoods of those living in below the line of poverty or just above the line of poverty needs to be thought about by everybody. We need much more coordination than we used to have before, much more risk management than we used to have before, and we need to have a better understanding to make things happen. So I stop here, and if when necessary, I'm ready to give answer to any questions.
Okay, thank you, sir, for sharing the practical issues and practical solutions from your experiences. Now, I'd like to request Vishnu, sir, for your reflection on how we can ensure the flow of trade during this pandemic, and your take on that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm operating a port. This is the only rail-connected port in the Nepal from rest of the India. It is a container corporation's joint venture company with having greater share in that, and we are proudly say that the importance of this dry port and this rail connectivity from rest of the India should be taken in broader perspective. I'm just continuing the what Mr. Sharma says. There are some hiccups and there are some problems, of course, there, because it's a very unprecedented time that we have to think about. But if you recall the Madhesh Andolan period, that was a complete lockdown in this entire period. And that time, utility of this dry port was, appreciated everywhere. So we were able to handle that time more than 1,70,000 metric tons or and on this right. So the same type of situation has come these days due to this COVID pandemic. And we are holding the containers more than 2.5 times what we have capacity, as you just said earlier. So there has to be some expansion program. There has to be some uh, planning of the government so that the augmentation expansion of this tripod must take place in accordance to the its role and its utility for the Nepal trade. Secondly, I would like to say that the entire, and I'm proudly say that in this last fiscal year of the Indian fiscal year, we handled 61,000 TUs. That is more than 60% of total Nepalese import from the rest of the world. So we have handled 60% of total Nepal import in one single line of railway line. What we are doing in this particular point of port. So we must think about the infrastructural expansion, and we must think about how we can facilitate trade in terms of rail operation to this country. As of now, right now, I'm telling you this in entire COVID period. Right from 24th of the March, we have received 100 rakes, 100 rakes, container rakes to this port, and 23 rakes of break bulk and bulk cargoes. So altogether, we received 8,900 TUs. Out of that, only 6,400 TUs has been received by the importers. I don't know what is the reason. There must be some other reason that why they are not receiving their cargo. But it is the right time to think what are there. These are the very essential thing, and we all must think about that. And secondly, what we are facing is this dry port, or you can say this port, that there are lot of lacking in between the interdepartmental coordination and government system. So people are scared to come. Although they are, so scared with this COVID infection, but still they are coming. But once they are stuck and taken captive by the police or anybody else, so they used to avoid coming to this premises and take deliveries and all such. And getting this momentum on the floor, this is very difficult. So there are a lot of coordination is required for the well run of this port, as well as the transit and the imports of Nepal as well. And I'm telling you, from the last 6 months or so, our CMD has permitted to deploy more than 50 rakes. One rake, 50 rakes continuously running in between Vizag and Calcutta to Birganj and outward journey as well. So we have a lot of rakes and we can push more. We don't have any scarcity of rakes or container rakes or even railway rakes. But what we are facing here now is we are not able to discharge containers from this point. So people are, customers are not lifting their containers the way they were receiving pre-COVID period. So I request all of the speakers here, those who are in Nepal, they should think. Mr. Sharma has just appreciated the working of dipod. We are working round the clock here and trying to provide best service to this nation, and we are doing. But the things get stuck when the customers are not turning up to receive their cargo. So this is the main problem. What are the problems? What sort of help they want? They should come forward and talk to district administration, because all the consulate office, all the embassies, all the district administration, they are helping. They're helping a lot, but the people should have to come forward and ask and interact with the things, what problem they are facing. Secondly, we have redefined the delivery process. We need not receive. We did not say customers to give the hard copy of anything. We are working on the soft copy of any RR, IW bill or anything else. So for the point of port operation from my side, we are helping and we are interacting with all sort of valid procedure to get their work done. So in coming future also, we will have to think, in my opinion, if such type of pandemic and such type of crisis happens in Nepal or in India, we at least think about the expansion of our capacity. We should always think about the, infrastructure building in pan-Nepal basis also. And over to Mr. Casey.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your perspective. Now, let us move to the second thematic area for discussion. That is protecting cross-border labor migrant during this pandemic. We know that cross-border migrant workers between Nepal and India represent important source of workforce contributing in our socio-economic development. Nepal receives significant portions of remittance from India, and similarly, Nepal is also contributing India's remittance inflow. So, to give us the perspective about how should both government and other concerned stakeholders work together for protecting the labor migrants, I'd like to request first Rajesh Khanal sir for a reflection.
Thank you, Casey. Good evening, all. Actually, at this moment where we are now, the main challenge is concerned with I think the labor movement, maybe within the country and cross-border also. That is a major issue, and that has become one of the major headache also, and how to control that situation in order to control the outspreading this coronavirus. This major challenge has been, I think this is the labor movement right now. So with the fall in the economic activities, the labor market is obviously is hard hit by the pandemic. Labor market has been strong largely all over the world, including Nepal and India as well. Workers face a heavy layoff or cut in their wages apart from the undergoing challenges of being safe from the coronavirus. And also is in the case of the migrant workers. So the major, I want to say, we can divide the challenge into three major concern areas. One is how to maintain the safety for the migrant workers now where they are now working and where they are staying. That is one of the major thing. If they are not in that panic, or rather to say if they are not that necessary that they feel, then we can make them stay where they are right now. So the second one is the how to help them in the getting the daily necessities and to address their financial problem as well, because the hunger and financial problem apart from this disease or the threat of death is another the severe one. And the third one is how to give the safer way for those who wish to return to their homeland, to their home country. So these three things have to be regarded. And obviously the vulnerability nature of the migrant workers are obviously they are different. It's not all for the same case for all in all. So in Nepal and India also, I think India has also imposed the lockdown since March 25, I think, if I'm not wrong. And in Nepal also it is the March 24. We are in lockdown period, and it's many of the employers, they are now hesitating to pay even the 2 months salary to the workers in the majorly. And just this afternoon, I come across that I attended the FNCCI's one interaction also, and what they were saying is about 3 out of 5 laborers are already they are out of the job, and that means around 60% are now have lost their job. So that is one of the major challenges, and how to address those condition and their mental health status, or they're likely to face the depression as well. And both the authorities in India and Nepal also, they have to join hand. And obviously, there's due to having open border and many cultural similarities and other historical or traditional whatever, we are having the free movement of the labor across the border as well. So in Nepal also many Indians are working freely, and in India also the similar cases going on. So now providing them the safer way of further movement is one biggest challenge is seen. Nepal also, in the latest case, the cases of the coronavirus suffered patients are rising, which is mainly attributed, which is mainly blamed to the obviously the labor coming from India to Nepal. In the Nepal's case also, if you see the today's data, it is around the additional 62 around new patients are developed. I think it's all over the country, but around 40 are them of them are from the Nepal-Ganj area, which is near the border of the Lucknow, I think, Bahrain, So how to address that situation? That is one of the main challenge right now. And also the partially the Indian government has also opened the railway services, if I'm not wrong. And the main concern is there. I've also seen. I've also gone through one news channel there, and people were heavily crowded in the railway stations, and it is likely to spread out the disease much in the much larger number. So that is one of the main concern, main challenges. And even in many of the cases, due to the I think lacking the proper management, I would say I'd rather say in the border area, since we also in Indian government, I'm not supposed to blame, but if it is there is some lagging in the management of the quarantine as well, and how to retain the work and how to proper manage the labor, how they are going across borders. If you see the case of the Mahakali rivers, many in Nepalese workers who are stranded in India, they swim across the Mahakali river to reach home. That is their compulsion. We cannot blame in any other way. That is their compulsion as well. And if you consider the Indian workers as well, even from the Kathmandu, they walk all the way to reach their home in India. So that has created even more threat to them because they come across so many people on the way, and likely they are likely to be robbed. Robbery or the criminal activities may take place other than the pandemic itself. And, there are several risks they are facing. Just a few days ago, it is not the case of India, though it is from the Kuwait. One of the workers was returning from there, and he died while is struggling to come to Nepal. That might be happen to many of the Nepalese in India. They want to come to Nepal, or many of the Indian they want to go to India, their home. So basically, the government has to think for such issues, and proper management of the quarantine is I think the quarantine shelter is the most obvious thing that we need right now, because at the border, the quarantine shelter, there is the lack of the medical equipment. Obviously, they are not well equipped, so they are also overcrowded, I think. So what I think the government can give the solution is why we cannot make some joint mechanism to address these issues at the cross-border movement, or to manage some help desk to which instantly hear their pleas from the migrant workers, and instantly they will take it to the action. And that is also obviously one of the key issues I think that should be addressed. And if it is possible, the government level intervention needed to be make the employers not to curtail the 10% salaries of the workers, and at least to retain those workers who were long ago they were working in their own company. Why to right now right away to to make them lay off right now, or they may cut off some of the salaries, no doubt, because anyone is facing this type of the economic crisis or financial crisis at this moment, not with the single form. So to some extent, they can give the leeway. So another one is that what I think is special awareness program is needed for the migrant workers, where from their employers or from the government level, because now many of the workers for a certain time when they are kept in the quarantine, the self-isolation center, they right away they escape from there and they go directly to the family members contact, so which is even the more severe, even that creates the more risk for the family members, not only for them. So the special awareness program from the, if the employers provide them to whatever, they might listen to them more properly, in my opinion. No,
Okay.
because if they what the boss says, then obviously they will more response towards their boss. So another one is if it is possible, I don't know this, to create the basket fund targeting the migrant workers, even for both the countries. The government and the private sector, obviously the PPP model will work in this regard. Uh, so the embassies also has to play the key role. And the first thing is the embassies also has to work out for what is the status of their citizens at the grassroots level. Like in the developed countries, even in India, Indian embassy here in Nepal, or the Nepalese embassy there in India also, I think they are not the proper access to all the migrant workers at the grassroots level. So they need to show the concern of their citizens at the grassroots level by coordinating coordinating with the local government officials or other type of the mechanism. They should have to know about what the people are doing there at the grassroots level, those migrant workers, what is their status, and they can form different type of this mechanism to how they can reach out to the actually needy people. Some of them might not be getting the proper food, or some are in the overcrowded rooms they are staying, or some are facing the financial problem. So first I have to identify the problem is another, the major thing that the government and the private sectors, they have to work jointly, I think. That is from my part.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if there's an issue, will come across afterward.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So thank you. Now I'd like to request Shubhangi Menkoretic, your reflection on like how Nepal and India should work together in order to ensure the cross-labor migrant issues in this a crisis.
Can you repeat your question?
Okay. How Nepal and India should work together in order to ensure the cross-border labor migrant issues during this crisis? Your reflection.
Well, I have a lot of ideas really for Nepal and India. And first of all, good evening to everybody, although we already had a small conversation. Okay, so see, there's a lot that Nepal and India have to do when it comes to helping the migrants, and this is something that I confess I did not even notice. There is no noise about this on the news, so it's something that needed to come out, and I think perhaps quicker. You see, India is responding. India is really responsive to the migrant crisis that has been taking place in India. We have migrants abroad, and we have migrants internally, right, who have been just stranded during the lockdown here, or the lockdown, say, in Qatar or in Dubai. So at the end of the day, India is really responsive to this problem. So I do think that in the case of Nepal and the stranded people of Nepal that are in India, I think there is enormous scope, and I think somebody needs to make a move and get this going. I do believe that I will immediately address this. I'm not sure what the Nepal embassy is doing at this point. They must be working very hard towards it, but I do believe that we need to see immediate cooperation with regards to these Nepali migrants, because we're not sure. In India, we're having a lot of informally, there's a lot of relief work also taking place. So I think some of the Nepali migrants would be benefiting out of that, although we're not so sure. needs to, there needs to be a formal plan to help these Nepali migrants, and there's a lot we can do. So Nepal has, around what, $3.5 million they had committed to the SARC fund that, the SARC countries had set up for COVID-19. And, I think all that is needed is about, what, $1 million, or perhaps not even, I think much less than that would be needed to take care of these migrants here in India right now. And I think India would love to cooperate. I'm not speaking for India, but I think to mend ties, to improve ties between India and Nepal, I think India would love a chance to take care of these migrants, but there needs to be some cooperation. The problem needs to be recognized. At this point, the problem in India has not been recognized, that there are Nepali migrants stranded. It needs to become something we need to know, and then we need to work towards, and I think India will respond to it. So as I said, India is very responsive. India has a very good experience when it comes to the stranded migrants. I mean, crazy experience. You've got the Shramik trains, which have, by midnight of the 15th of May, you had around 14 lakh Indian, locally stranded Indian migrants taken back to their homes, right? So India ran these trains for these migrants, and there have been buses running, and there's a lot of coordination between states taking place, and sometimes things have been going wrong, but mostly the intent is just brilliant, and it is good to see. And India is not just like taking care of the internal migrants, but the migrants that are abroad, and we've got this Vande Bharat repatriation program, which is mind-boggling. It is massive. There are planes coming from Saudi to Oman, and from Malaysia, from US, and I think this could eventually, by the time it's over, given the fact that COVID-19 is taking a long time to go, this could turn into the biggest repatriation program India has ever done, like sort of an evacuation program. So India is showing massive commitment when it comes to, to its own citizens and bringing them back. And also, India has brought back citizens from, brought back citizens, say, from Europe, people from the Maldives, people from Bangladesh, so India has been all in all willing to help neighboring countries, especially in this massive crisis that has been taking place. So, well, that's one. And the other thing is that, Nepali migrants that have been stranded here, they're going through a lot of tough times. I read about the Mahakali River incident, and even locally in India, there's a lot of migrants that have been crossing rivers, all in all skipping. Perhaps they didn't get the chance to take the trains or the buses. Obviously, massive countries. There's already too much going on inside. We've got 1 lakh cases now, almost 96,000. We've crossed China's official number, so that's pretty much. And this is when we have a lockdown going on. So, I understand that there's a lot of problems that Nepali migrants would be going through, as anybody would be going through at this time. And I do think that a program needs to be set to, by the time something for repatriation is done, something to help them at this point while they are in India is really important. So something for their financial needs, or something to for maybe even creating a database to deliver ration to them in case they're running out of that, because obviously most of these migrants are from the informal sector. These are people, they are shopkeepers, they are laborers, they are, farmers, right? So things would definitely be incredibly difficult for them, and they need, I think that India and Nepal, somebody just needs to make a call. That's what I would say. And some good programs can come up. And also, on the other hand, Nepal needs to, I don't know how, what their situation is when it comes to creating quarantine centers for these migrants, because obviously the fear is taking these migrants back. In fact, quarantine centers is something that Nepal can start working on. By the time India could perhaps commit to taking care of these migrants and then eventually sending them back. We're doing a lot of, Shramik trains and sending a lot of planes. I think we could definitely help our neighbor in this time of need. And and I also had, not just this is like the immediate thing, like it's a band-aid. This is the immediate thing that we need to do for our neighbor, and this is the immediate thing that Nepal has to do to help its migrants. But there's also a lot more that I think we need to think of for the future, because this, once repatriated, I don't think people will come back for at least 6 months to a year, perhaps even more than that. Situation in India is sort of uncertain, what a lakh cases, and the lockdown is being relaxed. So we don't see a flat curve at this point. Situation is a bit tight. So I do think that a long-term plan to help these migrants when they return home, they're going to be jobless. And we know how incredibly Nepal is dependent on these remittances, right? So 20% of Nepal's GDP is dependent on remittances. And we understand this experience because India itself has it's the highest recipient of remittances in the world, right? $83 billion last year, I think we had. So this could be, this is definitely a serious problem. The fact that 28% of Nepal's GDP could be, sort of affected by this, right? And so a long-term plan could also be worked out. And I think even in that situation, India must help, right? So there's a lot of things, I would love to see India, perhaps improving FDI in Nepal, right? I would like to see a little bit more investment in, highway projects or, your hotel industry. There's a lot that can be done in Nepal, and similarly, I think Nepal should sort of, continue to push for it. And what else? I would just, I will admit, let's not the elephant in the room. We cannot ignore that situation. Like when it comes to this political relationship between Nepal and India, it's not at its best, right? And that needs, I think this is a wonderful situation for that, those souring ties to be, mended. And I think this is the best time that Nepal could say, let's cooperate and start with the migrants. And towards the end, I think India could really help Nepal with a lot of things when it comes to investment and creating jobs for these migrants. And that could help us mend ties. That could help us, that could help Nepal, reduce its dependence on the neighboring giants, and sort of balance the relationship. And I think that is exactly what Nepal seeks at this point. So for me, I also see in the long term, there's a good opportunity for India to help Nepal and make everything better with our neighbor. And we can start from the migrants as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Shubhangi ma'am, for sharing your thoughts about how Nepal and India can work together in order to ensure the rights and different, in order to fix the different issues that is arising due to this pandemic. So now in third section, we are going to discuss about the post-COVID-19 scenario, about the Nepal-India economic investments. What are the challenges and opportunities, or how should Nepal and India work together in order to fix the different issues arises from this pandemic? So maybe how both governments should work together for the recovery from the shrink of the bilateral trade and economical damage due to this COVID-19 pandemic. We know that there is the supply chain disruption and lower level of bilateral economic activities. So not only due to the corona outbreak, but there were some long existing policy and procedural impediments that is existing between Nepal and India while we're talking about trade and economy. So maybe it is also the kind of opportunity for Nepal and India uh, to push forward the digitizations of the bilateral trade, and definitely infrastructure plays a pivotal role in trade. We know that there are many connectivity projects going between Nepal and India. So completing those projects on timely manner will be even more crucial in this post-crisis scenario. If we have to recover very quickly uh, in the bilateral sense. So to give us the sense about how Nepal and India should work together in the post-COVID-19 scenario, I'd like to first request Kuber Chalise sir for a reflection.
Thank you, Shyamji. Good evening to everyone. I think everybody can hear me.
Yeah, fine.
Actually, this pandemic situation has taught a lot of lessons to us, actually, not only inside the country, but beyond the border as well. Because like Rajan sir told about the supply chain management inside the country and beyond the borders, and similarly, our friends talked about the uh, efficiency of the port authority and efficiency in the Calcutta port to migrants, laborers problem, and hordes of migrants are crossing the border from India to Nepal and Nepal to India. Most of them, maybe for 15, 20 days, both countries retain them in their land so that they can manage something. Now the movement has started. They are handing over the migrants one by one. So this whole situation has taught us new lessons, new paradigms. This is a new buzzword that everybody is talking about, new normal. Everybody is talking about new normal. After this pandemic, there will be new normal. So I think this new normal will teach us now to uh, create the infrastructures that can be much more efficient in such situations as well, because nobody knows. After this pandemic, there might be another endemic and there might be other issues, and Nepal is always prone to earthquake. So there is always a chance of other disasters, not only pandemic, not only health issues. There are issues of flood, there are issues of landslide, there are issues of earthquake. So in such a situation, Nepal and India, I think, should create a joint uh, committee which can look after such infrastructures. The necessary, number one, high priority sectors, which should be uh, immediately uh, recreated or resumed, and secondary and third, they should create this priority wise infrastructure addressing system so that tomorrow, if any such incident or any such disaster or in any such pandemic health issues, we can work on that. This pandemic has taught us the how to work efficiently, how to build the capacity of the institutions, like Ranjan was also talking about. Building the institutional capacity is very much important, and the manpowers, those who are working there in the institution, both in Nepal and India, not only in Nepal, not only in India, because our bilateral trade runs not only because of Indian institutions or Nepali institutions, Indian manpower or Nepali manpower. Like uh, there are last week the government said, okay, we'll ask the industries, some 42 industries, to operate during the lockdown also. But the industrialists, they went to the government and said, we cannot run the industries because mostly those industries which are in the bordering areas, because we do not have manpower. The manpower, most of them from unskilled to skilled, highly skilled, those people, they were from India. Now they went back to their home after this pandemic. The situation, nobody knew what is going to happen tomorrow. So they all went to their home. Similarly, the Nepalese who are working there in India, they are coming back. So there is this manpower crisis. In such a situation, how to handle, how to manage the efficiency of the work with very few people, very few manpower also, we can run the port authorities, the ICPs, how that could be run 24/7 and in such pandemic and disaster situation also. Now we have to work on that, I think. For that, we need to create joint intergovernmental mechanism or incorporating the private sector as well. It's not going to work if it's going to be only government to government. There should be private sector also because most of the trade is handled through private sector parties, and the importers in Nepal and exporters in India or outside India, third country, we say third country, except India and China, we say third country trade. In all these, private sector is involved. So we need the private sector representatives, the stakeholders, the people like the transporters, the port authorities, and the government people so that they can facilitate this whole process. So we need to build this institutional capacity in a very efficient and in a very managed way so that tomorrow, in any case, in any such situation, the flow should continue. One thing, the flow of goods and services, first thing, and second, the flow of human being, because you cannot stop the people from going one place to another. It's their right also. It's in America they were protesting. They were saying even if we die, we don't care. We don't want lockdown. So people are saying that it's liberty. It's their personal thing. So keeping in view the movement, safe movement, the government can ensure their safety. Rest is but government must ensure, can ensure the safety and how to create that safety corridors from where. Like we have some 22 trade customs points between Nepal and India. Like in such situation, there should be some safety customs type of points where from where we can make people move from one country to another. So in this case, I think there should be more homework, and there is this Nepal-India Joint Commission also, and with the help of this Shark Fund that Modi ji formed, and Nepal has also helped in that. We can work with that also. And we have been talking this since long, but after this pandemic, we felt the necessity, the very importance of the ICPs, very efficient working this place from where you can move the goods and the services goods faster. So ICPs, the building construction of ICPs must immediately expedited and that must come into operation. And like our friend said, the port should also be expanded now. I think I was talking to my reporter in Bhairava, the bordering town near Sunoli, and he was saying some 17, 18 to 100 trucks are coming from the borderline, and nobody knows how to pass them or what security measures do they need. Nobody knows. So it's a very pathetic situation that in such a situation we have to keep the supply system moving and safe also. So for that also we need some kind of team, some kind of expertise so that the people in ICPs or the people in the customs should be trained in such situation so that they can handle such things with minimum of the people in such situation and efficiently handle this situation. And for that, I think money won't be a huge problem because there's from Nepal and India both chip in and they can share the cost. But post-COVID, I think Shubhangi has said we need more resource investments in Nepal because most of the remittance is going to dry up. According to World Bank, our remittance inflow is going to drop from down by 200 billion to 300 billion. So that means our remittance, that is the lifeline of the total economy, that is not calculated in GDP actually, that is equal to GDP's 20%. Now it's going to come down to 17, 18%, which means the country, Nepal, the country like Nepal, which is much more import-based and consumption-led country, that is going to suffer due to the lack of the flow of money, cash. So for that, we need more investment, and this is the right time that we are talking because government is preparing, Nepal government is preparing to bring out the budget. The government is also working on asking the development partners like India, bilateral partners, and ADB World Bank to invest more and to give loan and grant also to Nepal so that we can work on infrastructure, so that we can make the people, those who are jobless, use them in that job so that the economy can run and they can get job and the money cash flow can be managed in the market. And those big infrastructure projects can be more fruitful in the future so that our trade and transit relations can move expeditedly in a good way. We need more, some 2, 3 big projects that India can currently invest in, and ICPs and the new ports. I think the one in the Birganj, that dry port, is over congested now. Now we need, we'll be talking about Bhairava dry port and Viratnagar dry port also, but it's not moving at all. It has to be expedited now, because this is the time that we have learned the lesson that we need such kind of infrastructure, so that in such disastrous time also, our trade and transit relations, our trade and transit go smoothly, if not completely, only 100%, even 50% will do in such cases. And regarding post-COVID economic relations, there must be more joint venture companies we are seeing in the future, like Surya Nepal, that is doing very good in Nepal, like Dabur, that's doing very good in Nepal, profit-wise also, expansion-wise also, market-wise also, they are doing good. So we think there will be more Indian companies coming to Nepal and invest in Nepal, so that the return in Nepal is actually not that very low compared to India. And now we have ensured 24-hour electricity. The electricity problem has gone, the labor problem has gone. So more Indian investment could be attracted to Nepal, so that in future we can fight with such disasters very smoothly and very nicely. Thank you, Shyamji.
Okay, Kuber sir. Thank you for your reflection. Now I'd like to request Pratim sir for your take. How Nepal and India should engage economically in post-COVID-19 scenario, broadly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
So what I'll do is, the background is known to everyone, what happened to the world. I'll touch upon each of the issues, including a bit of geopolitics before coming to the region and India and Nepal. So firstly, and I'm mostly talking from economic perspective. So the issues are known, 3 main pillars. Globally looking at, the dollar economy is affected, and the commodity market is affected, goods market is affected, both are affected. And the service economy is destroyed, right? So this has impact on, when you look at the the Indian subcontinent and majority of the world, the impact is on 3 areas. One is services, one is the dollar, it is devalued because of sudden fall in oil prices, which is not good for the economy. Now everyone will know. And with the services and with the COVID, the remittance part will be hugely affected. This is preliminary impact, mind you. Insofar as India, all 3 particles are affected. Services is 54% of the gross value added of Indian GDP, so one can imagine. And in the case of Nepal, Nepal could avoid the shock largely of dollar devaluation due to the currency pegging with India. Finally, certain things which are old is gold, right? So this has been the perspective. Now the second thing is that we know that it has given rise to a huge churn in the world economy. We are witnessing the issues of relocation and etc. So it is, and it will not stop there. The global institutions will be challenged. So many of the pre-COVID orders will break or may break, whichever is correct. We don't know. It's an evolving situation. So we had a situation where WTO was being questioned globally by, we saw quite a lot of barriers in trade and etc. Now where COVID has put us is where, there will be a reconstruction of the global architecture. And it will be painful, mostly to the smaller economies, because there are many considerations which side. I mean, how should you negotiate in this when the big ones are fighting among themselves, right? So how I should say that how to mend your path. Now, this is one area, once again, it is Nepal has to take a call. Every country has to take a call. The difference, the big difference that COVID made to the world is it has left us to his and whose situation, right? See, everyone is busy mending his own fences. Everyone is busy in putting his own house in order. So the globalized economy temporarily is broken. It will come back to shape, but with changes. One such change which I anticipate is, for example, we are now meeting over this digital platform. If you see, I just wrote in a copy yesterday that when they said that there is relocation opportunity of industries from China, I thought that this is a distant possibility. I mean, it will take at least 2 years, right? Relocating a factory is not a cakewalk. But see what happened. Without visiting site, no one from Germany came to India, no one from Korea came to India and visited those sites. The factories are up. Korean factories are up already. And the Japanese have taken, German shoe company has taken a decision to invest in Agra. Now, this means that the post-COVID world has become exceptionally fast. So a big challenge is how to keep pace with this world. So the normal policy making approach will not work, right? So we already have a given set of problems. I hope I'm audible, right?
Very much audible.
Yes.
Yeah. So we already know the present state of problems for the smaller economies in South Asia, and most of the countries, with the export basket or limited export revenue, the dollar earnings sources were limited. With that, the problem is even bigger. Every country is in a problem, but the countries which have limited source, they are in bigger problem very naturally. And being a smaller economy, who don't have too many ways to negotiate in that. So where it is putting us, as I said, that the speed of decision making has become exceptionally fast, and the normal course of policy making will not work. Why I'm saying this, you must have gone through the recent 5-day long announcements of reforms. What is surprising is that in 1991, we announced reforms, such broad spectrum reforms from the floor of parliament. But this is happening outside parliament, which means we don't have time to wait till the parliament begins. Parliament is closed because of COVID scare. So it is a time, I believe, for a lot of internal reorganization. I think I'm taking a little more time, right? I'll just cut short in 1 or 1.5 minutes. So we need internal reorganization to make our economies stronger. This is a huge opportunity to us. Short-term pains are almost inevitable. We don't have the wherewithals like Germany or USA to give handouts to citizens. We don't have wherewithals. Let's face it. So we have to have some short-term pain. We have to work so that the poorest of the population can survive. We have to take maximum care to protect our agriculture economy. And right at this moment, we have to also, this is an opportunity.
I cannot hear you.
We lost him. I think we should let him know.
Yeah, Shyamji, we lost him.
Okay. We lost him, I suppose. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe now.
He had muted just now.
Yeah. Maybe now we can continue with Sagar sir, and then after his
now.
Yeah, after his reconnection maybe.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr.
Can
Shyam.
you hear me now?
Oh.
Yeah. Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sir, fine.
Yeah.
Let's take it forward.
So the last so the wrap up words are that I think it's time when, since considering the commonalities between the countries, between the economies and the pre-existing connections, right from our currency pegging and everything, the location of industries. So what I think is that Nepal should use this opportunity, to go for some reforms that will create the framework for investment. Investment will not flow to Nepal, and I don't think so. It is an investment scarce period. So investments will not naturally and out of luggage will flow to Nepal. If it flows, it will be political investment. That's a different issue altogether. But otherwise, we have to create the right framework for investment, right environment. We have to work on the ecosystem where the two industries can match and work so that the value chain is distributed between these two countries, which I think is pretty possible and plausible. Thank you so much.
Okay. Oh, thank you, sir. Now, I'd like to request Sagar sir for a take.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Sam. Like I was hearing all of you, firstly, good evening and namaskar. And thank you for giving me this opportunity, with getting a chance to speak to you with this eminent, panelist. And I was like, I planned thrice to be in Nepal, but it failed. I was supposed to be on 22nd of March in Nepal, and then the poor lockdown happened and it's got scrapped. So, what has happened, I was interacting with the Asian Institute of Diplomacy and International Affairs for certain projects related to BBIN. So I was part of looking to explore the connectivity as far as inland waterways is concerned. So that point of time, I got a chance to interact and learn a lot about Nepal and the trade. And what has happened during this pandemic, world is witnessing a unprecedented time and uncertainty. And there is a large scale economic monetary impacts which has been predicted, and it's happening. We can see, as Mr. Pratim Ranjan Bose said, the dollar economy is crashing, the service economy is crashing. Then there is a remittance part. Even for us also, we are hearing from all the customers, they're not getting their remittance from their, from their importers. The Indian exporters are not getting their remittance. So that's rightly, he said that thing, and which is the case, and well, I'm a person, who are more interested on whether the glass is half full rather than whether it's half empty, because the pandemic has provided India a greater opportunity as far as manufacturing activity is concerned. And there will be, India will have more presence and participation as far as global value chain is concerned. And there will be expansion in the trade in a global scale post-pandemic. And India, I could see, India could present itself as a next major contender or a destination. They will attract FDI, and since India is also largest trading partner, and the largest FDI is also going from India. So I could see there may not be major investment happening in Nepal, but what will happen, you will get a lot of new opportunities, exporters, importers, and the transporters in both sides, because there is a change in the amendment of the treaty and transit. So now inland waterways is also, coming as a new alternative. So what is happening, government is investing on a lot of infrastructure. One of them is Sahibganj terminal. The other one is Kalugarh terminal, which we are supposed to operate. There is some delays happening in Kalugarh terminal, but once it's there, you will see a lot of opportunities for the transporters, the business stakeholders, and there will be, a lot of maritime based, inland and maritime based intrinsic bilateral trade will happen, and for sure. There is also, Nepal will get a chance to get more access to Eastern India's, maritime resources. That's how I'm looking at it. And India is doing a lot of major upgradation as far as, the customs checkpoints is happening, be it in Birganj, Viratnagar, then, Bhairavara, Hawa, and then Nepalganj. India is investing because they are investing on highways to connect to the borders. And once the Kalughat, then the Sahibganj and the Varanasi going into the bidding and the tendering process, and you have a private operator operating there, you will see a lot of cost getting reduced in the process, because you are moving through waterways, so you are less dependent on human, more on you are saving more fuel, so the efficiency and the the cost will go down substantially. That's my way of looking at it. And COVID, has we lost something during this pandemic, and we gained something. So as I said, it's all about looking at the half glass, which is full. You are losing your human connectivity. You are more dependent on work from home because you have less number of employees or the workforce. Then there is a physical distance, which is the norms of the day now. But what has happened, digital connectivity is coming up. So the companies or the organizations or the countries who are, where the digitization has grown at a level, they will grow. And the companies who have their EDI integration facilities, and then you have your, online, portal, this company will grow in a much faster scale. This is one of the gain. While there is, again, Mr. Ranjan Sharma said, there is a lot of uncertainty in banking, in customs, in the documentation flow. Then you have information visibility. So if you have a digital platform, you can have information visibility. So it's most important. You have more coordination. That will be, the best part. Every company should look into digitization on a massive scale, because that's the next upcoming business. So, and you are now as a management level, all this, top management people are also looking into more micro management, because of you have less number of people. But again, you have a gain, whereas you have less rigidity in the system. You have more flexibility. People are now more accountable. People are more less resistance towards the change. That's the important part of this COVID scenario. Even we are facing a lot of there's the speed of work has gone down, but again the policy making and the decision making in the government and corporate level has gone up. So that's the game. You have less dependency on human right now, because you have less number of workforce or the labor force. So you are more independent. You can get a chance to take more decision. And this is like this is kind of a new kind of a synergy that Mr. Ranjan Sharma was talking about. So what has happened, COVID has brought a lot of problem, chaos in the system. But again, you have more belief within you have more belief within yourself. It has brought a lot of order, discipline, a lot of solution in the society. So the resistance to change, what I was talking to everybody, human has a tendency of resistance towards the change, which is now has gone. You don't see people, people are adapting more faster. So that's the advantage that we have now. So as a company or as a organization, we believe in three things which will help you in your journey to survive. So the first thing would be you need to survive in your business, which is like a short-term policy. So we are devising new ideas and changing some policies so that you first survive in your business, then you sustain in your business. So the second point would be in the midterm, you sustain your business, and then in the long term you put a lot of resilience where you can revive your business. So for that, as Mr. Ranjan Sharma was saying, you need a lot of information visibility. So for that, you need to create a lot of transparency in the system, be it in the government level, be it in the private level, be it in the corporate level, be it in the mid scale, any level. You have to create transparency so that you have critical components and the multi-tier supply chain works, because you need to have the transparency on the system. So when you have the transparency, you have more belief on your supplier and also with your customer. And then you have to estimate your available inventory, whatever you have, can you deliver? If you can deliver, then you deliver, or else say you go back to your customer or to your vendor saying that, boss, I need this, or you can say to your customer, I can deliver this. So you have to be, that transparency. Then within that inventory, you have to operate. Then you have to do a disaster management or a risk management. And for that, you have to have a realistic. You need to assess, what is the realistic and final customer demand. So based on that, you have to do your disaster management. You have to do your what do you call the risk management. Then you implement your system to run accordingly. So, and then you have to optimize your production and the distribution capacity. So you have less number of people, so you are aware of it, but you can't creep, right? So within that level, you have to have your capacity. The distribution capacity has to be maximum, whatever you can do within that capacity and deliver. And then you should manage your cash and net working capital, because the cash flow will be the best. Like that's the worst thing which is getting affected. So even whenever we call our customers, they are saying I'm not getting my payment, so I cannot pay you. So this is where you have the industry has a challenge, which is like you have to manage your cash flow very efficiently, very diligently, and then only you can survive. So so this is what I can say about this during this period. And as far as just to brief, what is happening on inland waterways perspective, the Sahibganj terminal is still not, the tender has been awarded. The tendering process is getting completed by this year end. So again, Kalughat, there was some land acquisition issue. So that's why the project may be delayed by 2 to 3 years. So Kalughat will come in next 2 to 3 years. There will be a delay in Kalughat terminal, which is like the terminal that we are operating, supposed to operate. And then the Varanasi terminal is again, it will be under tendering process by this year end. Then the Haldia multimodal terminal is coming up. It's almost ready. I think it's 88% of the work has been completed. Probably they will do Sahibganj, Varanasi, and Haldia terminal together. So this is what the scenario in inland waterways perspective. But I bet you inland waterways in coming days will be one of the best solution for Nepal trade. And we as a private operator, we are looking at Nepal and a largest perspective. So this is what my submission to you.
Okay.
Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your reflections. Maybe like as we don't have any specific questions from our attendees. What we can do is like we can have a round of brief closing remarks per se. That can be like from your respective theme that you already spoke, or like overall topics. So maybe I can plan to do it with the alphabetical order as I introduce in the starting. So I like to request Kuber, so maybe like on 1 to 2 minutes, if you have to say anything.
Thank you, Shyamji. I have a very much optimistic view about all this situation, because most of the people, the government institutions, the private institutions, they have just shaken up and they have learned the new thing that they cannot run like this, they cannot operate like this in the long term. In such a pandemic, that's why I say this is a lesson, this is a learning also for everybody, for private sector as well as government also, because in near past we haven't faced any such kind of situation. So for the government also it was a new thing, and for the private sector also it was a new thing. So I think with this new experience, with this new learning, we'll devise some of the efficient ways to do trade between the countries and inside the country as well. Like digitization, also the people talked about, and other issues like smart ports, smart trading systems, smart payment systems, smart migration also. Like you don't need to go to the places to give your consultancy nowadays, because after this pandemic, everybody is using Zoom. So everywhere the people are doing webinars. It's no more seminars now, webinars. So things are changing, and I am very much positive about this change. But the problem is the South Asian continent, like Nepal, India, we are very much short-term memory loss kind of people, like in the movie you might have seen. We forget very, very fast, and we go back to the normal things like as usual. But I think this will teach us a lesson, and we'll move into a new era of new development and more trade efficient ways, I think. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Now I'd like to request. Yeah. Pratim, sir.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, sir. Your final take.
Yeah. I think there should be the Nepal, depending on the political decision, Nepal should decide to sign. It was suffering from hot money issues. It already had major weaknesses. Hot money was a major problem, and either high inflation and the Reserve Bank was controlling the supply time and again. So there were some basic issues with Nepal, with the Nepal's banking sector, insurance sector, and I think it's time. It should start with the financial market. It should start with a little more synergy with the system, with the focus on service sector, that Indian and the Nepal service sector can work more together, and creating the foundation for investment is required. And as my previous speaker said, that you can't just that is the main lesson of COVID, that don't try to follow what you were doing in the past. It is not working anymore. It will not work. Thank you.
Sir, Rajan sir. Rajan sir, for your take. Rajan sir. Rajan sir, are you hearing me?
Yeah. Can you hear me now? I think.
Yeah, fine.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I would like to say is that the two countries are basically having a very different mindset, and then we need to change in our mindsets. We need to be very positive. There are a lot of issues which Kuberji already said, and then Pratimji also covered up. A lot of issues covered up by Shubhangi and Sagar. The basic thing which I want to say is that this is not about small country or big country. The pandemic might happen where India might have to rely on Nepal, and we might have to rely on Bhutan. So keeping this in mind, not considering the bigness of due to money or from the, amount of space you occupy or from the population side, it is time to coordinate and cooperate. I insist on this. And this is in the private sector as well as in the government sector. The other issue is, if you want to make trade happen, you need to harmonize, automate and harmonize. And when you harmonize, you need to harmonize the documents, you need to harmonize the insurance system, you need to harmonize the transportation documentation, which covers the risk and liability based equally among all countries within the BBIN region or within India or Nepal. And then we need to also harmonize the quality compliance issue, because there are products, which India doesn't accept or Bangladesh doesn't accept, or something happens. So we need to harmonize on the quality related issues as well. We need to have a better risk management system. Dispute settlement in business has to happen in a better way. So we need a dispute resolution sort of a system there. So IT-based remittance system, which many of you have already talked. The basics is, the infrastructure compatibility. If Calcutta port has got 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 containers loading capacity and Nepal has only about 1,500, will not work anymore, because trade will have to happen through a transit point for a country like Nepal. And I will speak on the side which Sagar took out regarding inland waterways on the later stage. So my take is automation, automation and automation. Without automation, we are not going to go any way further. And with a better coordination among private and sector and the government sectors, and utilization of all the state-owned institutes. On the take of what Pratim, Rajan, Bose sir said regarding the value chain and the synergy and the new frameworks and things like that, Nepal is already working into motive-based investments here, and then we're catering to the motives of the investors. And based on that, we are also talking about cluster industries where, for example, like leathers or for garments or for anything, which a certain part of Nepal can make and a certain part India can make, and we can join hands together to make things happen. So I'm not very much worried about the investment side, because if you look into the economics between India and Nepal and the amount of business that India does with Nepal, we are not less in compared to any other nation. The most of the exports that India makes is with Nepal, and it's a substantial amount, and then Indian economy has to rely on the Nepalese market as well. So this is a give and take situation. On the inland waterways side, what I would like to say is that there is a very big study that is going on with the World Bank. I am very positive. I had the opportunity to meet your vice chairman of the inland waterways. We shared a common platform where I presented from the private sector's perspective, and then I was very optimistic about those. If the areas and the concerns of the Nepalese traders and the logistic service providers that was put forth during those presentations are taken into good care, and we can make things happen, nothing like it. But a lot's to go on, because the government recently has just appointed the World Bank team, and the World Bank team has had about 2 rounds of investigations in Nepal, and we are still waiting for the projects. As regards ICP and ICDs that are under construction, so which Kuber ji said, this leasing methodology has to come out. But again, no matter how much infrastructure you make, if you don't have the right systems to operate those infrastructure, the right type of equipments to operate those infrastructure, the right type of management, capabilities to manage those infrastructure, everything is going to get stuck out there, like what Vishnu ji is facing at the moment. So my saying is, it is high time that our politicians' brain, are shaken very hard, and then that, the right mindset comes. Equally, that goes to the private sector as well. So the positivity is, it is a new opportunity for all of us, which Kuberji likes to call it as a new normal. So what I mean to say is that, we need to automate and to make things better. For this, coordination is needed. And the role of the media is very, very important, because what I'm seeing from the media's point of view also, everybody is busy reporting on the COVID rather than on the other issues, which are much more important as well, you know. So, and then it is high time that you give less focus to advertisement and things like that, and then to the real news, which gives more importance to the people, you know, because ultimately it is the people that we are going to serve.